Hello and welcome to a Smurd P video, and today we're looking at Transformers Studio Series, celebrating 15 years of Revenge of the Fallen box set. So this has Jetfire, Optimus Prime, Chromia, Arcee, and Elita 1. So I believe these are all figures that have been released previously. Bear in mind, I've not reviewed any of them, but getting this pack, I thought actually that's quite cool, because I only probably started picking up the movie ones last year when I started to enjoy them, or maybe it was the year before. It's probably the year before when I enjoyed them with Rise of the Beasts. So Transforms in 34, 37, 15, 16, 12. I guess they have different little modes, etc. And then I think you get reversible backdrops as well, which I think is cool because they no longer do backdrops. Even though I used to moan about it, it's kind of still pretty cool if you like those things. So the Autobots fight to protect Earth from the Decepticons and their master, the Fallen. So let's crack these out and have a closer look, eh? Firstly, we're going to have a quick look at the backdrop. Now, because it's a big backdrop, you feel like you get more of a whole picture. So this would really work in terms of being on your shelf. And then, very simple, you flip it over somehow. How's this bit go? No idea. I thought it was just going to... Yeah, I'm not going to antagonize that. But actually, I think I prefer this side because you've got the clean slate here, so they don't have to actually stand on there to be in position. But I suspect there's a way to flip it around, and obviously you can pull out those. It's just the bottom bit, but this works even better because that's not hanging out, and it will just slot on your back towards the back of your shelf a bit. So yeah, that's probably a bit of a shame that Hasbro didn't figure that out sooner. That would work really, really well. So wait, let's start looking at the figures anyway. So it's probably very rare that you get an already transformed Aut mode alongside the other bots, but this is how it's come in the packaging, so I guess this is how I will review it. So the weakest link of this is the three sort of mini bots, and probably a big shame because the box set for the Autobots from movie 1 had the core bots. Now I've got to show some appreciation that you do get Jetfire, and that Jetfire will combine with this Automus Prime, so I've got to sort of give it a little bit of leeway. And the fact that I think I would never pay full price for this. I think this is probably worth it, and this is perhaps worth it, but these are just, they're just chucked in. And you know, it would have been nice to get some of those other Autobots that made Revenge of the Fallen what it is. You know, you could have easily had a Bumblebee in there, a Ratchet, even the two small bolts, the small bots, Franco, whatever he is. Was it Franken's? Are they in this one, or does he pop up in it later? No, they are in it, but they were Decepticons to begin with, if I remember rightly. Anyway, I sort of digest. So these are the weak link of it. And, you know, they are really, really tiny, you know, compared to the other bots. And I don't think that they were probably this small in the actual film. So the articulation is quite non-existent. I mean, you get some movement on the head as well, which is quite cool. But yeah, it's very limited in what you do. You get these sort of weapons that sort of, you know, this is quite top heavy, and if you look at it, pivotal to the bike. But you know, you got blasters there, I guess, and sort of a sword there with Chromia. It is Chromia, yes. Yes, it is. We're going to say that anyway, even if it's not. And there we go. If I can get her to stand up again. Come on. You're doing fine earlier. Yeah, we're just going to shove you to the side. Anyway, Elita 1 is probably the most weakest of them all because she gets no weapons. She just gets a will to whack around. So, yeah, that's a little bit of a disappointment. But these are what they are, to be fair. You know, I mean, this is something that it reminds me of probably one of the figures I would have bought from the late 80s. You know, barely any articulation, and you know, just yeah. So, but hey, this one's got a couple of weapons. So Arcee is overloaded with weapons compared to Elita 1. So Elita 1 is really given a done deal, which is a little bit sad. Also, these little bits pop out, but they're nothing to worry about. I feel like if they wanted to improve this box rather than just resell, they could have invested a little bit more into these and given a little bit more to the fans, considering this is Studio Series, and Studio Series is usually the better off, one of the better Transformers series out there. It just feels a little bit disappointing, but I guess these do the job that you want to if you are a big fan of Revenge of the Sith, Revenge of the Fallen. Oh my goodness, wow. I almost did say it. Literally right out there. Now, the jet in jet mode is absolutely stunning. I remember having a Blackbird, probably a Matchbox jet as a kid. I absolutely loved it. This thing is absolutely beautiful. And dare I say, is this what they used to make that Cyclops X jet that they did a couple years back that, you know, ended up being a peg warmer and sold for silly amount of money in the end compared to what it originally was? You can stick the weapon under there, which is quite nice. Nicely done. And that looks like a little weapon there, but I'm not sure whether it is. So you can stick that under there. The other piece, which becomes his sort of walking stick, is the wheel underneath there. I mean, the only thing is you do have this great big head here, but I think you can overlook that unless you're looking from this angle. Only it would have been cool if they could have created some flaps, but then I guess they would have to justify how they pin that back. But the Blackbird for Jetfire is probably quite iconic now. Bear in mind, Skyfire for G1 fan, but they did have Jetfire in Armada, right? But I did dislike that they sort of made this like, even though it's meant to be an older character, but they actually made him act like an old character compared to the vibrance of Skyfire stroke Jetfire. You know, I felt like they completely moved away from that sort of look. So I will transform that. And obviously, the next step is probably going to be me transforming Jetfire, and then I will obviously combine him. And then we've got this beautiful Optimus Prime, which I think is a really nice Optimus Prime. Now, we've seen some great Optimus Primes over the years, but that is for different live action movies. So Rise of the Beast is probably one of the favorite ones out there, but that is based on that film, not based on this. So one thing that I will say that I'm a little bit disappointed with is I would have liked him to have his ion cannon. That would have been epic. That would have made this set perfect. But perhaps when this was released, maybe he only came with the swords. Maybe that's it. But, you know, I think he's great. There we go. We can spin the head around. Nice stuff going on there. I'm trying to see if there's an Autobot logo in there. I can't see one. This is a little bit disappointing. I love these weapons. Looks like there's some Cybertronian writing on there. And, you know, you look there, that's a really nice effect going on there. So arm can go all the way around. It can lift up. You got a single there, which is normal. There is movement on the wrist, but you do have to be careful of this piece here and this bit here. Scarcely any movement there because you got this great big sort of backpack going on as well. Just be careful with the wheels. I feel like they could become a hindrance. Yeah, like so. Kick forward. You can sort of kick back. Yeah, well, that pops out as well. So clearly a big part of transformation. So Optimus is looking very, very cool. So what I will do first is I'm going to transform some of these off screen, and then we can have another look at where we are in terms of how they are starting to look. And then I'm quite excited to transform Jetfire into that all-important combiner mode where he sacrifices himself, which was an iconic moment in my mind. So let me go do that. So here is Jetfire in his robot mode, and I've got to admit, I generally do like how this looks. My biggest problem comes with articulation more than anything, and also this piece here where it doesn't sort of sit flush in there. And now it could be user error, but I couldn't seem to maneuver it into a place, and I was worried about damaging it, because I have heard horror stories about the upper chest and lower chest separating, so I didn't want to damage that. So articulation is a big thing. Also, in terms of this piece here, you've got that nice cool fabric there which just slots in there very nicely. Now if you move the arms down, that would just flip out, so that irritates me a little bit as well, because also that affects the articulation. Now in terms of the walking stick, once again, very nice. It just needed to be an inch longer to be spot on. Now, it may be that way because I had to do that for the Auto mode to make it work. And once again, the hand, because there is no... All it needed was articulated fingers, and this would have been perfect because they would have... let me just lift that up a little bit. Because that would have just bent down there very nicely, moved the thumb round. That would have been the perfect figure. Now, considering I suspect this figure on its own would probably be a leader class, probably between the usual range of 50 and 60 quid in the UK, it seems a little bit disappointing, because this is probably one of the main reasons why you're buying this set, this and Optimus Prime. So, little just minor disappointment. So, you see what I mean in terms of, sorry, the axe. The axe is beautiful. If you could fold that in, spot on. Absolutely spot on. That would have been the perfect fit. I can't even push that down. So, yeah, I just wanted to get that out in there. Now, he does have beautiful eyes. Look at those eyes. And I love that these are sort of flexible, so they're like, sort of like old hair. I think that's awesome. And the detail just throughout the body, just lifting up that, just looks very nice. I love how his legs stand hutch, because he's an old robot, so that's basically what he does. And it all just, even the back looks quite nice and tidy. You know, there are nothing here other than the articulation of these arms that seem to damage how this figure looks, because other than that, he's spot on. So articulation wise, so all right, the other articulation wise is you got no real movement on the head other than moving it like that, which, you know, a little bit disappointment. So the other thing with this as well, because the way the arm sits here, it's all about the arms in this video. If this was a rotating wrist, that would have been perfect as well, because you have to hold, there we go. You have to hold this at a sort of angle to make this work. So, tad bit disappointed in that. You do have a double on the hand as well. The legs, I mean, you can move this up and down like so. You could make him really tall, like so, if you really wanted to. But the hunch look is definitely the way to go, in my opinion. Definitely the way to go. You got some nice movement there as well. So he is a fantastic Stuart series, and he will look awesome on your seat, on your shelf. I love how he sizes up with Optimus Prime. I feel like that's very nice as well. So great bots. So now on to the next big thing, which is combining them. Now I'm not going to do that on camera, but I will do that, and then we can have a closer look at them both. Okay, he looks absolutely awesome like this. Now, the only thing is, I didn't exactly enjoy taking them apart. I was worried step by step, but if you take your time with it, I assure you, I think you can do this without breaking any of Jetfire, because you rip him apart. There is, I think, a sort of thing with the upper torso. It doesn't give you instructions to do anything with it, but I've seen some people use that to make the sort of the mega cannon that that Optimus flies with ultimately in that final fight. But I think it's cool. I mean, you could put the little stick on the bottom here. Looks great. And then finally you have some way of actually holding the axe, which is fantastic. It just looks really, really good when you just look at it all the way around. It is top heavy, so you do have to be careful. So, but it just all fits very, very nice to me. I feel like he's slowly losing his balance there. So he's definitely, this is definitely a piece you will do, I think, maybe only once or twice. And in reality, if this is on your shelf, I think you're going to be chuffed with it, because this does look fantastic. And it gives you, you know, you almost need to buy 2 sets. One to have these 2 separate, and then one to complete this awesome piece. So, yeah, I'm happy with it. Just be very careful when you're transforming it. That's all I can say. And take your time. Do not rush it, because rushing only leads to mistakes, right? So, anyway, I guess next up is Optimus in Auto mode, and the twins, the triplets here. They're not triplets, but the 3 lady bots in their Auto mode as well. So, without ado, I will transform them. Okay, so here are the Biker Sisters and Optimus in his Auto mode. I don't know what it is with this set, but I probably have physical fatigue from transforming things backwards and forwards. There is a lot of work with this set, which perhaps makes it feel a bit more valuable. However, things do worry me that if you were changing, in particular, Jetfire quite a lot, you're going to end up starting to lose some of that strength in joints, separating things. So I do suggest err on caution. The bikes as well, they were little buggers to transform. I'm still not even sure that I did them right, but they are pretty decent, and they do roll, and they do sit quite nicely as well, which is pretty good. This is probably the hardest one of all. I definitely haven't got this right, but hey, it looks cool. I think it's pretty decent considering their size. I still wish that they'd, you know, redone them a little bit so that they were slightly bigger. But then when you look at Optimus next to a bike, a lorry next to a bike, actually their size is probably quite spot on. So they are pretty decent. You know, I'm not a massive fan of these 3. And I think I did go and check out a couple of reviews, because I was having a right pain transforming them. And the biggest issue with this set is the instructions, because they're so big. The pictures are really small and really difficult to see, making it very difficult. So I did go and check out a couple of reviews. I mean, this transformation is not so bad for the most part. It was pretty fine. It was just this section here, which involves getting the arm pieces into certain places. But, you know, I think that's turned out really nicely. Nice Autobot sign on there. Detail looks very nice. I do like it. It's a nice little Optimus truck, and I think it works. Up to you whether you put the weapons on the back. Entirely up to you. Once again, my biggest disappointment with this was that you didn't get him come with his plasma rifle, or his iron blast, or whatever you want to call it. That would have been cool. So, yeah, it's a fantastic set. I'm still really glad that I picked this up. I certainly wouldn't go out of my way to spend the full amount on it, but as I got it for half the price, you know, it was a no-brainer for me. And I actually, I didn't get it immediately. I actually waited a few days. I think it was till payday. And I was surprised to see it on there, because usually these things are just gone. Unfortunately, I think that deal was now gone completely. It's back to normal price, which is over 100, which I think is extortionate. I've actually, funny story, I actually cancelled the second Revenge, or was it the third Revenge pack that is due out with the Fallen and Galvatron. Not Galvatron, Megatron. I may pick it up later on, but I'm not in a hurry to get it. You know, I don't think I'll get as lucky as I did with this. This was a really nice set to get for a really decent price, so that makes it all worth it. And I did really enjoy the Optimus and Jetfire put together, and Jetfire is definitely the better bot than I was expecting from this set. I think he's a fantastic thing. I just worry about over time things will become loose, weaker, and slowly degrade, because potentially there is so much to do with him. So if you can get him for a decent price, I would recommend you get two for one for the combiner bot, which is essential if you want to create that ultimate scene piece on your shelf, and one just for you to have him in that normal mode, because he does look fantastic. So there we go. There is my my review of this set. Thank you for watching. I hope, especially if you made it at this point, if you like my channel, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Make sure you look after yourself. Very important these days. Thank you everybody that's subscribed to my channel already. And as always, embrace the geekiness. Take care. Goodbye.